Welcome into the first episode of the season. It's the Gridiron Grind. Creta, what's up, Jimmy?
Man, who I see looking back at me, no one other than Creta 3. I'm so pumped to be back, man. Another season every year, for as long as I can remember. I just keep going, man. This college football, this season is going to be crazy. This is going to be the craziest season of all. And I'm going to say it again this year. This is going to be the craziest season of college football. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
There's nothing like it. Might be one of the, if it's not the best weekend of the year, I mean, it's a top 2, top 3 weekend. It's Labor Day, so you don't have to work on Monday. And then you get football. I don't count week 0 last week. I don't even know why they do it. But like
Right.
Thursday, you get like Florida, Utah is a big game, a couple other big games. You got football Thursday, you have football Friday night, high school football. Then you got Saturday, full slate. We got 3 games on Sunday, including just maybe the game of the weekend, LSU, Florida State. Then a game Monday, Clemson, Duke, with no work, no school. It's one of the best weekends. We're back on the podcast. I mean, life is good. Doesn't get much. What does Jim Harbaugh say? Who's got it better than we did? I mean,
Yeah.
just
I don't know. Not many.
finally back.
Not many.
Football is back. We're ready for some football and excited to be back on the Gridiron Grind. A few changes we got coming this year. You can see all those changes. We got a new website, gridirongrindsports.com. Go check us out. You're going to want to subscribe because what subscribing does, it's free, but you get an email every time I'm going to have blogs that I'm going to write. Jimmy's going to have blogs and picks that he's going to do outside of the podcast that we do. And those are all going to be on the website. And then, of course, we're going to do our podcast, and you're going to get an email, an alert every time we release any kind of brand new content. So you're going to want to go subscribe. You're going to want to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get an update every time we release a video podcast on YouTube. And Jimmy, fingers crossed, I think we have the Apple Podcast snafu figured out. I think we're going to be on Apple Podcasts, hopefully starting with this podcast. So we'll find out. But the new changes, so we got the website. We're going to do 3 different podcasts a week. We're going to do 2 this week. This one's coming out Wednesday noon. It's a college football podcast. And also this week, the one that comes out on Thursday will also be our week 1 bets. But starting next week, it'll be college football pod on Wednesdays, NFL Dallas Cowboys pod on Thursdays, and then, of course, the live post-game show we'll do immediately after every Cowboy game. That will be only on YouTube. We'll jump in live, probably go about 15 minutes, give our thoughts and opinions about every Cowboy game. So a lot of changes, Gridiron Grind world. We're excited to be back, up and running, and it's just going to be a great year of football and a great time providing content for everybody. So
Yeah, I'm excited, man, already. Like you said, I don't really like week 0 mostly because sometimes I kind of get caught up and I don't really think, because I'm waiting for Labor Day weekend and then I'll forget about week 0. And, if you're a gambler, there's always money to be made. And I think you and I talked about it, just kind of getting things ready for this big Labor Day weekend. And, our teams aren't playing week 0, so we kind of goes under the radar, but the USC game was one we'd like to have back because it turned out exactly the way we talked about it, was going to work out. So yeah, I'm super pumped. I can't wait for this weekend and can't wait to finally see, everybody's got hope.
Yep.
Unless you lost week 0, everybody's got hope. That's what makes this weekend so special.
The 2 big boys that played, Notre Dame, USC, they both won. Even Vanderbilt won. So all the Power Fives that played won. So they still got hope. But I tell you, I had tons of people text me last weekend, Gridiron Grind people, Coffee with Creta people. It's like that Dave Chappelle, like, Creta, I need the picks. What's your picks this week? I'm like, it's week 0. I don't have any picks. Yeah. They're like, we need a pod. I'm like, hey, we're running a week behind. We're trying to get the website up. I said, we'll release the next week. You'll still be able to get in your regular season win total bets that we're releasing on this podcast. And then the podcast comes out tomorrow. We're releasing our week 1 bets. So all you degenerates out there text me all last weekend about not having week 0 bets. We got plenty of bets for you this week to go put out. Also, we'll put something up. You got to make sure it's legal in the state where you live, because not every state it's legal. It's not legal. Texas, for instance, where we bet, but Arkansas is our savior. Just do what me and Jimmy do and get to Arkansas. Do what you got to do. It's legal. So in Arkansas's law, you just got to be in the state line, and you can do it right from your phone. So
yeah, a lot of them use location services, as I'm sure everyone knows.
yeah.
So you gotta have your location enabled. So yeah, like Trey and I will take it's about 3.5 hours from where we are. We'll take a 3.5 hour drive over there, have a little lunch, sit down, talk, and then we'll find ourselves, you know, parking lot and just sit there and go in and place all our bets, and then talk about where we're going to move to when they all hit and collect. So that's what
maybe
we do
this
on the
is
way
the
back.
year we win all our bets. So
yeah, 100%.
All right, well, let's get started. Gridiron Grind College Football Pod, Episode 1, Season Win Totals Future. But first, this is kind of an iconic year in college football, Jimmy. It's basically the last year of college football as we know it. A lot of changes are happening after this season. We're going from a 14 playoff to a 12-team playoff next year. Texas and Oklahoma both moving to the SEC next year. Utah, Colorado, Arizona State moving to the Big 12. And then you have USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon are moving to the Big 10. And as of right now, you got 4 teams in the Pac-12, Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, Stanford for next season. I don't know what's going to happen there. Pac-12 probably won't even exist. I don't know what those 4 teams are going to do. But of all those things I just listed, Jimmy, what do you think is going to have the biggest impact on college football as we know it moving forward?
Well, I want to start off by saying you're exactly right. If people think things have gotten wild with the transfer portal and NIL, wait till we have these legitimate super conferences. You've got conferences reaching out, and we talked about it with the expansion when the Big 12 added West Virginia and stuff. It's like geographically it didn't make sense. Now they don't even look at a globe. They just go, "Oh, we want you, we want you, we want you. We don't care." And once this conference realignment happens, it's going to be completely wild. And I think you're right. I think the Pac-12 won't even exist unless they can somehow. They're going to have to take lower tier teams. They're going to have to take teams that, again, geographically aren't anywhere close to them. Maybe take teams, that maybe just kind of move up to Division One. It's going to be. I don't know if you join with the ACC. I don't know what the Pac-12 is going to do. I don't think they'll exist. They may dissolve, but who knows?
There's been reports that the most, prevalent report has been that Cal and Stanford, ACC, which is on the opposite coast, is interested in Cal and Stanford. Makes no sense, like you're saying, geographically. We're going to have Stanford women's soccer on a Wednesday night. It's going to fly to Raleigh, North Carolina. Of course, all these things are done for football. That makes no sense.
You and I talked about it this offseason, that these two conferences on the bookend of the nation, they're getting just demolished by the North and the South. I said they ought to join up and drop the PAC and the Atlantic and just make it the Postal Conferences or whatever cute name they want to come up with, because these two teams, especially if a team like Clemson gets plucked from the ACC, Florida State already wants out, and Florida State will convince Miami to go.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here like they're going to be proactive. But yeah, if I was them, I'd join up. I'd say, guys, look, we're both going to die if we don't team up, and so the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, and I really feel bad for Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, Stanford. They're both high academic institutions. I think they could make it as an independence and just say, listen, we're putting all our we're not going to play that game. We're going to not invest that much in football. We're just going to be academic institutions and also participate in some athletics. But Oregon State and Washington State, like Oregon State, Jonathan Smith at Oregon State football, he's building a program there. Oregon State has gotten better every year under him, and they were one of my favorite teams to watch last year. And so I don't know what's going to happen to them. I did hear a report that at first there was speculation that maybe the Big 12 was interested in him. And then the commissioner came out and said, no, that's not accurate. But then just the other day, I read another report that he said, well, maybe. So I think Oregon State, Washington State, and maybe if they add Cal and Stanford, that would be their best bet. Go to the Big 12 because you already have the other 4 teams from the Pac-12 that are joining the Big 12. Utah, Colorado, Arizona State. It's not that as far. You're already in a conference with them. I think that's those 4 schools' best bets. But I'm thinking about writing a blog on this, the future of college football. And I really believe, I've said this for a couple years, I believe I believe it more now than ever. We're going to an NFL model. We're going to do all these contracts are going to come up in like 2036. I think it's when the ACC one comes up. I think all the big TV networks are going to say, listen, we can make more money if y'all just did like one big 60, 70 team league, just like the NFL does. And, and football breaks off and we don't have conferences for football. It's run just like the NFL. And then all the other sports go back to conferences based on regionality that don't make all the money. And so you wouldn't have women's soccer traveling cross country for a game that takes 2 hours on a Wednesday night. So that's kind of where I think it's headed. I think it's going to go to an NFL model where football eventually breaks off. I can see this happening in about 15 years. Football breaks off and it's like the NFL, but college. TV's done that way. There's more money to be made that way. And that's just kind of where I see it going. So I don't know. I might write a blog about that. Check it out at gridirongrindsports.com. So it's fascinating.
Well, you can, and people can go, oh man, that's pretty far-fetched. And like, yeah, but as like we talked about, the last several years of college football should show you if nothing's too far-fetched.
It's all about money.
I would have never thought they would have, exactly, it's 100% it's about money. I'd have never thought we would have come to where essentially, and they're trying to stop it. They want the federal government to get involved. Federal government doesn't care. They're getting there as long as they get their cut.
How can they stop? I don't understand how they could stop it anyway.
Exactly. Me neither. And I'm going, it's about money. I would have never thought we'd have been able to pay players. And the people, the higher ups at all these institutions, they want to use student athlete on camera. But then when it comes time to let's check the bank account, these are athletes that are part-time students, basically. And so it's all about money, this conference realignment, this NIL, the transfer portal, all that stuff. So anything can happen. Anything can happen. But to answer your question, I personally think the biggest to me is Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, because that's what really kicked off. Oh crap, the Big Ten going, well, we can't let the SEC, man, we're tired of those guys as it is. Let's go out and get USC and UCLA. That'll make a splash. Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
And so, I think Texas and Oklahoma, because those are 2 big money programs. They're old, we'll call them old money. 2 historic programs, college football, joining the SEC, making the big move, going, hey, this is what we're going to do. Again, moves about money. And as soon as it happens, then people go, nope, we've got to react. And the Big Ten's done a fantastic job of kind of countering, batting the ball back over the net, going, okay, we're going to rebuttal, and here's what we're going to do. So I think that, to me, Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC is probably to me the biggest move.
It's going to be, and I'm going to love it. Like, I've always been a Big 12 guy, been a fan. But I'm excited I'm going to miss the regionality of it. I have a lot of connections. Like my wife went to Texas Tech, her family, Red Raiders. I got a lot of connections, Oklahoma State, of course, Oklahoma. Of course, that one is staying. But just there's a lot of regionality, Baylor, TCU, a lot of friends, TCU. And I'm going to miss that. But I'm also looking forward to visiting places like the Grove and Ole Miss. I'm going to be able to have a good time at the Grove and Ole Miss. Baton Rouge, if I can get out of there not getting in any trouble, it'll be a miracle. So places like that, I'm looking forward to going and visiting. I'm also looking forward to having, different fan bases come in. So that part of it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a heck of a conference, especially if Texas and Oklahoma get it right. And you're going to have a lot of elite teams. So last year of college football as we know it. Enjoy it. 14 playoff. I think it's going to be interesting when it moves to 12 team. So we'll see how it goes. Last year, as we know it. Let's move on to our next segment, questions of the week. We've taken a lot of questions throughout the summer, so we'll address some of those, some from our listeners from the past, and just people we run into. Some have sent us via Twitter, but the first one is actually for you, Jimmy. It's from Karen from Caddo, Oklahoma, and she asked Jimmy,
okay,
what do you think about Oklahoma? Are they going to have a better year this year? Was last year just a one-year setback, or does Brett Venables have a multi-year rebuild ahead of him?
Whew. That's an onion answer. It's several layers. One, I think they've got to be better. Oklahoma, you and I talked about it when they announced this SEC merger, Texas, Oklahoma. Texas, Oklahoma going to join it. Texas had started to trend up. Oklahoma had Lincoln Riley. We knew the success. Oklahoma, for all intents and purposes, sorry, Trey was probably the better team. And then all of a sudden it went like this. Oklahoma has just fallen off. And I think they've got to be better. But I also do think he's got a multi-year. He's got to find offense. If they don't find their offense this year, I don't know. He may be one of those guys that's just a better coordinator than head coach. The guy's a defensive guru. Phil Jackson of defense. That guy's unbelievable. But you gotta hope General Booty and this offense get going, because otherwise, I think they're still lower than Oklahoma can go, and you don't have to look any further than a former Big 8 opponent in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Look at the just nosedive that Nebraska has done ever since they left the Big 12. Just plummet. They're in the basement. And a historic program, Tom Osborne. We all know about Nebraska. Our parents growing up, that's, you got to beat Nebraska. And then even the 90s, you got to beat Nebraska. Now everybody's beating Nebraska. And Oklahoma needs to take that as a warning, because if I'm them, I'm going, guys, this isn't the bottom. We can go a whole lot lower, because we're about to join the SEC. We already lose big time recruits to go to the SEC. Now we're going to join the conference in an effort to keep them home. But if they're not winning, those recruits are still going to leave. And like I said, I think you're going to see a downfall like Nebraska. So, Karen, I think to answer your question, they've got to be better, because if not, it's going to get a lot worse.
Well, their defense was just so bad last year. And Brent Venables, when he was at Clemson, he had massive defensive linemen. And that's when he's been good, he's had that. And Oklahoma didn't have that. They had a different style of lineman under Lincoln Riley. He went to the transfer portal, and I think he brought in like 6 or 7 different linemen from the transfer portal. Now, I don't know if they're going to be any better. One guy's pretty good, but he's kind of between an end and a linebacker. I don't think he's big enough to play in. Deshaun McCullough from Indiana. I think he was a high 4-star out of high school. But I think Oklahoma's record might be better this year, but I don't think the team will actually be better, because if you look at it, they were 6-7 last year, but they lost 5 starters to the draft. 6-7 and had 5 offensive starters drafted. So I think their defense it's got to be better. It can't be much worse. Offensively, though, I think they're not going to be as good. They don't have any kind of receiving deep threat, anybody that scares you receiving. Dylan Gabriel, he's a one-read quarterback. He really struggles if you take away his first read. He doesn't move well in the pocket. He panics, and he doesn't throw well on the run. He's not the great scrambler. He really struggles. You take his first read away. So I think offensively they're going to take a step back, even though it's their second year in the system, but might have a better record than last year because their schedule's so easy. It's the easiest schedule in the Big 12. They avoid a lot of the big boys that are season win total favorites, but might be better record, but I don't know if they'll actually be better, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, I think it's going to be rough. it's going to be rough from OU. So for
Yeah.
OU this year. So Karen,
But Brent Venables is recruiting well. He is recruiting well. So he's going to need that going into the SEC. So we'll see how it goes. But, I mean, he had a good class last year, and he's putting together another pretty good class right now. So.
Yeah, Karen, I don't know. Maybe after week 4, maybe don't even pay the cable bill anymore. Just don't even watch it. We'll see. Creta, I got one for you, and this comes from Philip from Cuppa, Texas. For those of you who don't know, you might say Cooper.
Incorrect.
They will correct you.
Yes, they
Cuppa.
will.
They're from Philip from Cuppa via Twitter writes, Creed, I'm sure you're high on the Longhorns this year, but they've been ranked in the top 20 preseason almost every year with all kinds of hype and haven't delivered since 09. Why should anyone think this year is going to be different?
It's a great question. And you hear a lot of the national media talk about this. I mean, this is, especially if you're a Texas fan, Texas has let you down. You get the hype up, and they've let you down. But I will say, there is a difference. What Steve Sarkisian is doing compared to what Mac Brown did post Colt McCoy, what Charlie Strong did, and what Tom Herman did. The misconception of the narrative is, well, Texas always has great recruits. Skill talent, yes. They've, through the years, had some pretty good skill talent. But the difference of what Steve Sarkisian has done is 5 stars. He's gotten more 5 stars than any of the previous coaches did since Mac Brown, early 2000s. In the offense and defense alignment, the size, the mass that he's acquired up front, that's what's different. And we talked about this, Jimmy. I'd drink the Kool-Aid because Texas is supposed to be good this year. And I'm like, Jimmy, don't let me take Texas season win total over. Just don't let me do it. Because if you look at it, they got great depth all across the board. The amount of 5-star talent, here's just their 5 stars that are going to be starting. Their quarterback, previous 5-star. All 3 starting receivers are 5 stars out of high school. Their tight end, 5-star. Their left tackle, 5-star. Their right guard, 5-star. Then even backups, their running back, their freshman running back, he's a 5-star backup. One of their backup receivers, Jonte Cook, freshman, 5-star. Anthony Hill, linebacker, backup, 5-star. Cornerback, Malik Muhammad, was rated a 5-star by One Industry. So they're loaded. Offensive, defensive lines are bigger. They're better than anything they've had, like I said, since Mag Brown 2000s. And Sark is, you can tell he's confident, and he even says, this is kind of the team I envisioned when I took this job. This is the kind of team I wanted. That's why I think it's going to be different. Now, am I saying they're going to win the national championship? No, I don't think they're right as of right now. I don't see that happening. And I think they're a fringe playoff team. I don't think they'll make the playoff, but I think if depending on how their schedule goes towards the end of the season, I think they might be in that contention. I think they're a top 10 team this year. I really do. And I do think they're going to win the Big 12. So that's why I think it's going to be different. So
I think you're right. I think you look what Sark's done, and he's recruiting. It seemed like there towards the end, it was like, Mac gets lucky to quote drop down and kind of slum it and get Colt McCoy from 2A. Texas high school football ends up being arguably one of the best things ever happened in the University of Texas football program. But Mac was just recruiting. Well, you know what? He's got this star rating. And then you see some of those guys come in, you'd go, why are they rated that highly? But you look at the guys that Sark's got, they're rated that highly for a reason, and you can see it. It's not just guys where you're like, oh, that guy's big. He's got the measurables. Let's give him a star rating. And then he gets there and, look like Tarzan, play like Jane.
Yeah.
Sark's getting some
been
real
going on and on.
recruits.
Yeah.
And so, Texas trending up at the right time, like I said, to join the SEC and carry momentum, especially in recruiting, into that conference merger.
All right, next question we got via Twitter. It's from Dan from Palestine, Texas. Question about the Texas A&M Aggies. Jimmy, will Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino work out this year and the Aggies get back on track? Or will their egos get in the way and just create another season of chaos down in College Station?
Oh boy.
Man, I can see that one going a million different ways.
Yeah, that's that's kind of a octopus hydra. That's a multi-arm, multi-head monster. Got Jimbo Fisher, who I don't know how much. I mean, they've sold the farm for Sumlin, and then they've done a reverse mortgage on the farm now for Jimbo Fisher. So they're stuck with Jimbo. They can't afford to buy him out anymore. Um, I think Bobby Petrino, I actually like this hire. And I like their quarterback, Wegman. I thought
Yeah.
that kid was pretty good last year. He's a freshman. You could see him make some freshman mistakes, but they bring in Bobby Petrino. Know a little bit about Bobby Petrino and his offense. Prolific. The guy, even at Missouri State, I mean, they could move the ball. They could do almost whatever they wanted to on the field offensively. He's going to bring that into College Station. Guys like Evan Stewart, um, he's going to have a lot better skill players, almost the level he had when he had us at what I think number 3 in the nation, number 5, uh, with Ryan Mallett and those guys. So,
RIP.
but the first loss is always telling. You saw
Yeah.
what happened last year when the wheels fell off. The greatest recruiting class that never was just fell apart and disbanded. And I think that's one thing every high profile program has to look out for in this era of NIL and transfer portal, but especially a place like A&M where I think they're a little bit known for over promising and under delivering on some of these guys. And when you get guys that aren't buying into the school, right? You don't get the Matthews family, the Yokel, those guys that just bought in and wanted to be A&M all the way. They stay, they play, they get
Yeah.
better. When you basically have football players for hire, first sign of adversity, they quit and they go, well, I mean, I don't really care. I'm going my own way, which I completely understand. Heck, if I was that good, I'm not saying I wouldn't be the same way either. So I think it's really going to depend when that loss comes and if they can eliminate bad losses. A close loss is fine, but they start getting blown out, especially by a team. If they lose to people they're not supposed to, I think you're going to see the wheels fall off. They're going to start pointing. You're going to have both those guys are head coaches, Petrino and Jimbo Fisher. So if the offense gets rolling, I think you and I talked about this could be another 90s Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson. The
I mean,
offense gets rolling, A&M turns it around.
you
Well, they're
don't
going to blame
hear
or they're going to give the credit to Petrino.
you don't hear a
Well,
bunch of the national pundits
yeah.
mention the A&M wide receiver room is loaded.
Loaded.
I mean, they got Evan Stewart, Muhammad, and then the guy that was hurt last year, Anaya Smith. I mean, and then they got a really good tight end. I mean, they got weapons. They're loaded.
Yeah.
But like you said,
Petrino knows how to use them.
exactly. And now Petrino, what he wants to do is basically the exact opposite of what Jimbo Fisher has done. Jimbo Fisher is one of the worst offense. I mean, he's stuck in the 80s, 90s. He's not creative. It's just, I mean, it was a terrible offense. But what you said, adversity. When adversity strikes, that's when we'll know if this is going to work out. They go to Miami and lose at Miami. You'll learn a lot about how this is going to work out. And
especially
if they
lose bad.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I don't know. I mean, you go to Miami, wasn't very good last year either, but I don't know. I mean, they got a tough schedule. They got Arkansas again in Arlington, then they got Alabama at home. I mean, they play in the SEC. They got a tough schedule. So there's going to be some adversity. There'll be some bumps. And that question is better. I guess you have a better idea of that after they face some adversity and see how those two, how it goes. So
yeah, see where the fingers start going.
Yeah,
like I said, if they have success and they start giving Petrino the credit, I could see the egos bumping as Jimbo. Well, this is I'm the coach. This is my team. And of course, if things start going bad, I could also see it going well. Is he letting Petrino call it the way he wants to? And I don't know. We'll be interested to see. I think they're going to be an exciting team to watch.
I agree. I mean, and we'll see Jimbo's ego, like if they do well, and see how he likes it. If everybody starts saying Well, their offense is doing well because it's Petrino. I mean, how's
Yeah.
Jimbo going to? How's that going to go over with old Jimbo? We'll see. But we got one more question before we get to our. We're going to do our regular season win total bets and our futures bets. Last one is from Lindsay from Plano, Texas. Boys, love the show. Think you guys are great. What is y'all's opinion of Adele, the singer Adele? I've heard y'all mention her on the show before. In her first few albums, she was on top of the world and everyone loved her. Now she receives a lot of hate and doesn't have the buzz she used to. Do y'all think it's the weight loss? Jimmy, I'll let you address this Adele question.
Lindsay from Plano.
What's your thought?
I guess if we're going to be, I guess you got to field all sorts of questions. I love that.
Yeah, that was a non-football related one. Thought I'd throw in there.
Yeah. Broaden our horizons.
I'm a closet Adele fan. Her first couple albums, Set Fire to the Rain, Rolling in the Deep.
Good voice.
Top. She had the soundtrack to that James Bond movie. Was it Sparklight? She had some bangers. But I will say I don't know. I don't know if I know any of her songs in the last decade. So maybe I didn't even know she really lost weight. Maybe I don't know.
I think it's interesting. She asks, Lindsay here asks, do you think it's the weight loss? First thing that comes to my mind is this is something else to look up on YouTube for the watchers and listeners here. Go look up Susan Boyle's audition for Britain's Got Talent. And you watch, she comes out, all the judges are kind of laughing and snickering. Audience is doing the same thing. And then she starts talking and they're still doing the same thing. And let's go ahead and get ready to hit the buzzer and get her off the stage. And then she starts singing and everyone's jaw hit the floor. And Lindsay, it might be one of those things. Look at Luke Combs. Okay. Yeah. Is Luke Combs fantastic voice? Fantastic voice. If Luke Combs looked like Parker McCollum, would it just be, he's just another, he'd still be widely successful.
Yeah.
Would it be as
see people? Yeah.
I don't know.
People don't like
amazing
perfection.
To look at.
That's why people rooted against Tom Brady. Because everybody thought he was perfect, won all the Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Great looking dude, supermodel wife. They don't like perfection. And maybe they think Adele losing weight. That's why
I don't know. That's a good one, Lindsay.
That's why I'm not losing the weight, Jimmy. I just I don't want people to hate me being too perfect. So I just gotta I keep something wrong with me. Now, if you ask my wife, she's probably got a laundry list of things that she thinks wrong with me. And so I think
the grass ain't always greener, man.
Tell her I think she'd probably say I'm in no danger of having things to hate me about if I lost some weight. So, all right. Well, hey, everybody thinks it's all about football. There you go. We addressed an Adele question. Let's get to the meat of the show, though. Time for our season win totals, futures. Like I said, me and Jimmy took a trip to Arkansas, play some bets, and I guess I'll start off. I got 4 season win totals I like. Go with the Illinois fighting Illini. Brett Bielema, they cashed for me last year. This year they come in the numbers at 6.5. I like the over. They were 8-5 last year. Brett Bielema, he has improved them every single year. I see no reason why they won't do that again this year. They do lose their defense coordinators now, that head coach at Purdue. They returned 12 starters, not a lot, but the Luke Altmaier kid from transfer from Ole Miss, he was a backup at Ole Miss last year. He's going to be their starting quarterback. I think they're really high on him. And the biggest thing to me that's going to help get to that 7 wins to get this over, Illinois over 6.5, they avoid both Michigan and Ohio State from the other side. So the West has been up and down, the division they're in. They don't have to play Michigan or Ohio State from the East. Bielema's got them rocking and rolling, better every year. Over 6.5, I'm all in on Illinois.
I had that one as well, over 6.5 for exactly the same reasons you said. They hit last year, had number 1 ranked defense last year. Iowa was second. Surprising considering how just boring Iowa was to watch because their defense was so good. Yeah, I think Illinois over 6.5. I took that one as well. Um, I went back and forth on this one. I didn't want to go. I usually try to stay away from betting with my heart and stuff like that because that'll cause you to lose money.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
put it aside, but I came back with I think Arkansas over 7. I
Okay.
think we can win 8 games. KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders. We do lose Kendall Briles. That one still hurts. But we bring back in Dan Enos, familiar face. So I think KJ can stay healthy. Offensive line's good. We've got weapons at receiver. Secondary is going to be good. Defense, and our secondary's got to be better because they couldn't be any worse. So if we can get them playing, I think we can win 8 games, maybe 9 with a bowl, and send KJ out with almost every major passing record
Yeah.
at Arkansas. So I went Arkansas over 7.
Starting 3 years or 4 years?
3.
So 3-year starter.
He was behind Felipe Franks.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Felipe Franks. Yeah. Okay. All right. Arkansas over 7 for Jimmy. My next one was their bowl opponent, the Kansas Jayhawks. I got the Jayhawks over 6. Now they went 6-7 last year, 6-6 regular season, lost the bowl to Arkansas.
Yeah, they did.
They returned 17 starters, including 10 on offense. And here's one of my favorite stats of the offseason. They are one of 28 teams. There's 133 FBS teams. Kansas is one of 28 teams that return head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and quarterback from last season. So anytime you get all 4 of those returning, you're looking like you're going to have a great season. So Kansas fits that mold. They had the quarterback Jalen Daniels. I mean, he's electric. He probably is the best quarterback in the Big 12. And also, people, if you really study their roster and study just Arkansas saw that receiving core in the bowl game. I mean, it went to overtime. They got weapons. And I believe they have the second most talented group of weapons in the Big 12 behind Texas. That's how good I think this offense is. So I like Kansas over 6. Ironically, both Illinois and Kansas play each other week 2. So that's going to go a long way. At least I'm going to win one of those, hopefully. So week 2, got my eyes on that one, but I like Kansas over 6.
I like it. For my next one, not too much to elaborate. I went Alabama under 10.5. You lose Bryce Young. What are you going to do? Nick Saban hadn't named his quarterback. He said he's not gonna. We all know Nick Saban rarely goes undefeated, even when he wins the national championship. Yeah. He usually loses one game. I think starting this new quarterback and getting new weapons on the outside is everything. Of course, Alabama's always rebuilding, right? I think this is close to a true rebuild since he got there. And I think Alabama under 10.5. I just think they've got a lot of tough games to play, and I can see them slipping up.
Love that one. If you go 10-2 with Bryce Young as your quarterback, I mean, their quarterback situation is not going to be any better. And I like it. They got to lose 2 games again, and you win that bet. I'll go my next one, Oklahoma. We kind of addressed Oklahoma earlier. Oklahoma under 9.5. They do have a very weak schedule. And they avoid Kansas State, Baylor, and Tech, all losses last year. But they lost 5 starting offensive starters to the draft, like we talked about. No real playmakers at wide receiver. We talked about Gabriel and his struggles after his first read is gone. Defense will be better, but they still have a long way to go. But also, officiating could play a role in Oklahoma getting under 9.5. They could go 9-3. I mean, their opponents were only called for holding against Oklahoma one time in Big 12 play last year. So I think it's against Oklahoma, and they hit under for me last year. I think they do it again. Oklahoma under 9.5.
I like it. For my next one, I'm going to go Vanderbilt over 3.5. I think it's going to be the year of the Commodore. You and I talked about this. We're already on our way, baby. Already on our way. We're sailing in the right direction.
Big win
there in Nashville. So Vanderbilt over 3.5. Just why not?
I like it. I love it. I mean, they could get it in the non-conference 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
They could win 4 games in
Yeah.
I love that one. Next one for me, it's my last one. Season win totals. Appalachian State. What a roller coaster season they had last year. Remember the opening weekend? They played North Carolina and they went into overtime. I think they lost by 2 points, 63-61.
63-61.
I mean, it was what a game. North Carolina was supposed to compete for the ACC championship. They lose that one. Then the second week, they go into College Station, beat A&M. Then the next week, they host game day. They beat Troy on a Hail Mary. And then did you know they didn't even make a bowl after that? Appalachian
Crazy.
did not make a bowl. They had 6 wins, but 2 of them were against FCS teams, and you can only use 1 for bowl eligibility. So they returned a lot of guys from last year. They're 6-6. But the program over the last 5 seasons, they've averaged 10 wins. So last year was the worst season they've had in a really long time. They play in the Sun Belt, super competitive, the Sun Belt. But Appalachian State would be my dark horse to win the Sun Belt this year if I had to pick one. I really like the team. I really think they bounce back, and I think they make a bowl, and 6.5 is the total. I like the over. I think they get to 8 or 9 wins this year, but even if we just get to 7, that's a winner. So Appalachian State over 6.5 for my final season win total.
That's a good one. I like that one. Yeah, hard to believe they didn't make a bowl after the way that
after they started their first 3 weeks. Yeah.
So I don't have any more season win totals. I do have 3 futures.
Futures, okay. Rattle them all. I got
Michigan. Yeah, these I'll just rattle off real quick. Won't be too much. Michigan to win the Big Ten. Harbaugh seemingly has figured out the recipe to beat Ohio State. Plus, he's catching them at the right time, although they have arguably maybe the number one overall pick in Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know. Guy's definitely going to be the first wide receiver taken. That wide receiver room stacked, but it always is at Ohio State. Who's going to be throwing them the football? I think this is Michigan's time to, it'd be a three-peat. So I think Michigan to win the Big Ten. I like UTSA, the Roadrunners, win the AAC. That's right. Meet, right past everybody. I think UTSA wins the AAC. Jeff Traylor, he's building something special down there. I like what he's doing. And then this one's not too much of a stretch. Just Texas to win the Big 12. I think they're the most talented team in the Big 12. Only team that can beat Texas is themselves.
Agreed.
So those are my 3 conference futures.
Well, I have 2, and they're 2 of the 3 that you took. I like Michigan. Basically, everything you said. I think this is Jim Harbaugh's best team. And next episode, and tomorrow's episode, we'll pick who we like. Conference championships, playoffs, national champion. I'm high on Michigan this year. I think this is Jim Harbaugh's best team. I think they get it done again, win the Big Ten. Ohio State's a favorite for some reason, but we were all on it last year. Vegas loves Ohio State, and we told everybody all year the same reason why they beat them 2 years ago is why they're going to beat them last year. And sure enough, did the same thing, even though it was in Ohio State. The game is in Ann Arbor this year. So Ohio State, with a new starting quarterback, is going to have to go into Ann Arbor. J.J. McCarthy, and the running backs are loaded. They get Corum and Donovan Edwards back. They have 3 of their 4 secondary guys are going to be NFL guys for sure. They got some big-time defensive linemen. I think it's Harbaugh's best team. Love Michigan this year. Then the second future I got, Texas to win the Big 12. I like this better than Texas over 9.5 season wins, and here's why. They could go 9-3 very easily, lose Alabama, lose 2 conference games, and still make the conference championship game. The last, I think it's like 5 or 6 conference champions, or 5 of the last 6 maybe have lost 2 games. So it's not a stretch to get in and win it with 2 conference losses. And also the same thing with Oklahoma. The officiating, like you've heard the comments, the officiating is not going to do any favors for Texas and Oklahoma. Combined, Oklahoma's opponents had 1 holding penalty in Big 12 play called against them. Texas' opponents only had 2. So, I mean, it just ain't happening. Texas, 1 officiating crew called 3 Texas games last year. They called 1 penalty against the other team in 3 games officiated. Think about that. They called for Texas in those 3 games 33 penalties in those 3 games, and they called Texas opponents combined 1. So it ain't going to be any favors done for Texas and Oklahoma. And that 1 was a defensive offsides they had to call. So it's not like they're not going to call any subjective penalties against. So I'm not going to make that as an excuse. We're going to play the games. And I'm just saying, but you got to anticipate Texas might lose a game or 2 that's going to be close because, I mean, they ain't going to get the calls. And the Big 12 office has made it, with their recent comments, have made it very clear they're being upfront about it. So, but anyway, Texas is just so much better than everybody in the Big 12. Head and shoulders. We talked about the talent earlier. I think they win the Big 12. Just talent. Their talent's too good. And the money, it's like minus 110. I think Texas wins the Big 12.
Yeah.
So, all right. There you have it. Regular season win totals and futures episodes in the books. That's episode 1 of the season. We're going to have another one for you tomorrow. We'll talk about week 1 bets. I like the slate in week 1. I'm just going to put it out there.
Yeah.
I got some bets. So that'll do it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe the video, Apple Podcasts, cross your fingers. Hopefully that's out. Also our website, gridirongrindsports.com. Get over there, subscribe. We're going to start pumping out blogs, pumping out our picks, and putting the videos. Coffee with Creta, that's where that's going to be this year. So I don't have to send people a million different texts. It's just going to be on the website. You sign up with your email, you'll get an email blast letting you know. Not only that, but any time content. So get over there and sign up for that. So, Jimmy, episode 1 of the books, buddy. It's good to be back.
It is. It's great to be back. I'm excited. My favorite time of the year.
Love it. Can't wait. So thanks for joining us on the Gridiron Grind. We'll see you tomorrow.